Maria. Bealtaine also brings a very high pollen count. And so I'm suffering a bit from hay fever, and I may have to drink during the story. The story that I'd like to tell you is one that I got from a woman in County Clare. I used to work down in Clare at one stage of my career, and I got some great stories there. And this woman told me the story about her own family. When the government of Ireland decided to do the rural electrification scheme, they had some difficulty about knowing how exactly they would do it, because there was no problem bringing electricity to towns or to cities, because there would always be enough people, shopkeepers and business people and so on, who would be able to pay for it. But when it came to bringing electricity into the rural areas with a scattered population and a poor population and a population that maybe were a bit sort of nervous about it, they weren't too sure what to do. It wasn't a particularly Irish problem. It was the same problem in all countries. But what they decided to do eventually was to, first of all, decide on an area. Okay, we're going to try this area to electrify. And they sent people down to talk to the important people in parishes. So that would be the parish priest and the minister and the doctors and the lawyers and the teachers. And they asked them to talk to all the people that they had dealings with and to tell them how great electricity was going to be. And when that was all done, a couple of months later, then they'd have a general meeting in the area, which was open to everybody. Every single person in the area could come. And they could ask any questions they could like, and they could hear all about the wonders of electricity. So when the meeting was organised in West Clare, Mary and Paddy McMahon decided they were not going to the meeting. Definitely, there was no way they were going to the meeting, because they knew everything that was to be known about electricity. How do they know that? They knew it because their son was the most intelligent boy in West Clare. And they knew that because hadn't the county council given him a scholarship to go up to the university in Dublin to study the engineering. And their son had explained to them that the electricity was just like the lightning you'd get on an August evening, and that the government had built this big machine on the Shannon River in Ardnacrusha. And this machine could grab the lightning out of the air and squeeze it down into little wires that they bring to your house. And the problem was that they put holes in your wall that the electricity came through. And you could be asleep in your bed and the electricity could be seeping through and kill you dead on the spot. And they wouldn't have that. And another thing that they would do is they'd have a little cord coming out of your ceiling with a bottle with electricity inside in it. And who in their sane senses would have bottled electricity, bottled lightning inside their house? And they said, no way, they were not going to do it. But they were going to keep an eye on their neighbours who had decided to do it and see which of them was going to die. And they watched for a year and a half and nobody died. Well, they did. But they didn't die from electricity. They had heart attacks or they died of cancer or whatever, but nobody died from the electricity. And Mary was going up, you see, these days to her friend Biddy's house. And Biddy had got the electricity. And Mary discovered that of a winter's evening, you could turn on the light and you could read the Clare Champion without any having to screw up your eyes or having to turn it over to the oil lamp or straining or anything. And it was beautiful altogether. And she's saying, but you know, the electricity is not so bad. And another thing that Bridie had was she had an electric kettle. And Mary was very impressed with the electric kettle where you just turned a switch and the water would boil up. You didn't have to be poking fires or trying to get a range going. I thought, oh, that's quite good too, you know. And the other thing that she liked was the iron. Because when Mary was ironing, she'd have to put the irons into the fire and they'd often be dirty and smuts on them and they'd ruin the shirts. But the electric iron was beautiful and clean and all silvery, shiny. I just thought, oh gosh, you know, maybe the electricity mightn't be so bad. But she didn't say anything to Michael. She was kind of a bit wary. And then didn't Mary get the electric cooker? Oh, well, that put the tin lid in it all together. Bridie got the electric cooker, and Mary was absolutely absolutely astonished at the electric cooker. You could turn it on and just, you could have 3 or 4 pots all going at the same time, and the oven. Oh, it was amazing. So she decided to pick up her courage, and she says to Michael, do you know something, Michael? The next time the electricity come round, we might think about getting it in. And he said, oh no, absolutely no. The oil lamp was good enough for my father, it's good enough for me, it'll be grand, we're okay. And Mary told him all about the wonders that Bridie had up in her house. And Michael said, Mary, he said, those gat cheese are only for lazy women. And you were never a lazy woman, Mary. So she said, oh, she thought, I'll have to go about it another way, she thought. So she waited until November, till the long, dark days were coming around. And one day when Michael was up in the field, he was fixing a fence or something, she went out into the barn where they used to milk the cows. And she went to the nail where he used to hang the lamp, and she loosened it up. And under it, she put a bit of straw. And beside the straw, she put the old blankets that they used for calving. And when he brought the cows back that night, she went out and she joined him for the milking. And he lit the oil lamp and he hung it up on the nail, and they started milking the cows. And of course, the oil lamp fell down, set fire to the bit of straw, and Mary, with great presence of mind, jumped up and threw the blanket over it and stopped the tragedy happening. Oh, she said, that was a very near thing. And that's all she said. She said nothing else. She just left him to it. A week later, Michael says, Mary, do you know something? I was thinking about the electricity. I wonder, should I investigate it? And she said, oh, well, then, whatever you like yourself, Michael. So Michael went off and he visited his neighbours, and he discovered that the electricity was a fine thing altogether. So they got the electricity in, and Mary got her kettle and she got her iron and she got her cooker, and she was delighted with herself. But the thing is, when you start to get luxuries, you want more. And at this stage, RTE had started up, and the Late Late Show was showing every Saturday night. And on Sunday morning after Mass, everyone was talking about the Late Late Show. Did you hear what Dave Byrne had on last night? It was a disgrace, so it was. And everyone was talking about it, but Mary and Michael knew nothing at all about it. So Mary said, you know, Michael, the whole country's watching television bar us. Why don't we get the television? So he said, you know, that's a good idea. And off he went. The next time he had a few bonnets to sell, he put them up in the donkey and cart, brought them into Ennis, sold them, and bought the television set, mounted the television set up on the cart, and brought it home and installed it in the good room. And of course, it didn't come on until 5:30 every evening. And every evening, Mary would go up and she put on the good Sunday skirt and the good Sunday blouse and the good Sunday cardigan. And she'd sit down. And when Michael would come in, she'd say, now, Michael, up you go, put on your good Sunday clothes. And he didn't want to. He was tired. He just wanted to sit down and rest. And she said, no, take a look at those people on the television. How are they dressed? And he said, well, they're very well dressed. Well, she said, I'm not having those people from Dublin looking in on us and saying they were not as good as they are. So Michael would put on, the two of them would dress up to the nines and sit and watch the television. And then their 40th wedding anniversary came around, and guess what their son gave them? He gave them a trip to Dublin for a weekend and 2 tickets for the Late Late Show. How's that?